lives in the streaming world of what he believes to be of quality. But there is, unseen by most, an episodic horror-based TV show. A show that still holds up. A show called Tales from the Darkside.
I just spent a lifetime in the housing bureau. It's no use. We can't evict Mars because of the rent control laws, and we can only raise his rent a few bucks a year.
And he has the best room in the house, the parlor floor front.
Hey, what's up, and welcome back to Talks from the Darkside, the podcast where we talk about Tales from the Darkside, the 80s horror anthology television show created by George Romero and Richard Rubinstein. I'm Joe Lascola.
I'm Sean O'Rourke.
And I'm Chris Barr.
Today we're talking about Parlour Floorfront, directed by Richard Friedman, based on a story by Carole, Lucia, Satrina from October 20th, 1985.
I want my ring!
I mean, it's possible. Definitely not a cake, but this guy's not an asshole, though.
No. He's
totally,
actually a pretty decent guy.
He's like a really nice guy. Mars Gillis is very
he
nice.
Just likes pranks.
I just caused mischief.
Little ones.
Yeah.
Just being a little rascal.
He is a little rascal.
I mean, he wants what's owed to him.
I mean, yeah. Well,
Kinda. We'll get to it.
I think he just wants to be left alone.
Well,
more or less.
Sure.
Well, I think going into this one, it's like, first thing we can say off the bat is like the last 3 episodes have been hit or miss. They've kind of been testing the waters.
Yeah.
We're back to a horror episode.
Yes.
Finally, it's episode 4.
Episode 4, we're finally doing horror in the Tales from the Darkside series.
Yeah, they did a blood transfusion. They had the fucking Crypt Keeper over there. They're like sucking the rest of the blood out of him. They just inject it into Tales. They're like, all right, we need a jump start.
Yeah, before we keep going, though, let's get the Fangoria synopsis, please.
So the synopsis goes, a scummy, yuppie husband and wife take over an apartment building whose tenants include a benevolent West Indian voodoo master. Seeking to flush out the undesirable occultist, the landlady concocts a death curse charade, which inadvertently drives the man to his grave.
I spoil it a little bit, but okay.
I mean, well,
They don't spell it out at least.
Yes and no. There's a good twist in there that they don't spoil, but like,
True.
I didn't know he was a West Indian voodoo priest.
I didn't either.
Well, he's supposed
Where
to be
does the-
hoodoo specifically, I think, if you look it up on Wiki.
Well, hoodoo, voodoo. I mean, it's called hoodoo.
Oh, okay.
You can say it either way. I'm pretty sure. I think it's actually 2 different things. It might be.
I just call it chicken magic.
Fucking voodoo magic,
You
man.
gotta have the clip here.
Fucking voodoo magic, man.
King Willie.
It's on deck, Chris. Don't worry.
Not only do I have to kill you, but I gotta take your soul.
Yeah. And your cat soul, possibly.
But yeah, so Richard Friedman is directing this episode, and he also brought us the amazing Dark Wolf with Kane Hodder.
Yeah, he's done a couple.
Okay.
The amazing.
I mean, that's a little
sprinkled out in there.
sarcasm.
I mean, it's a shame because Kane Hodder is in it, and John Carl Buechler did the effects for it. So I haven't seen that movie in a hot minute. I remember when it came out on video, so maybe we have to revisit that in a different capacity somehow.
He's
Maybe.
also done 4 Tales episodes. He also did Monsters,
Yep.
and which we don't have a lot of overlap with. Usually it's Tales from Darkside Monsters, but he also did Friday the 13th, the series,
That's right.
which is neat. It's like you see in some people go into that series as well.
Yeah, so it's cool because we're eventually going to get to that series for sure. But he's also a writer, and he wrote Doom Asylum.
Mhm.
He wrote Death Mask, and he wrote Scared Stiff.
Huh.
Scared Stiff won with MDU icon, one Elliot Carlisle from Munchie. He stars in that movie.
Of course he does.
Yes, it's great.
And I didn't realize it until like the credits hit, but the director of photography in this episode was Ernest Dickerson.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then I found out he directed 8 episodes of Tales, and he also directed Demon Knight.
Holy shit.
Oh
So
my
and then
God.
he went on to do a lot more like television. I know he's directed like a ton of Walking Dead episodes
Yeah.
and stuff like that, but most importantly, he did Demon Knight.
Yeah, well, yeah, hell
Say
yeah.
it again, yeah.
I can't wait to talk about that when we get to it. Also, we got Carole, Lucia, Satrina writing this, and she also did the odds, and she did in the cards that we've covered already.
That makes so much sense because the writing in this episode, I mean, I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but it is like top notch on this one.
I think it's really good. So we have this couple, Linda and Doug, who are fucking assholes.
Yeah.
They're like just straight up. They're rich, privileged white assholes, and they fucking buy this brownstone. And there's this, and they like kick everybody. They evict everybody in the fucking
Every
building,
single person except for one guy
who they can't kick out because he's got nowhere to go. Who is Mars Gillis. He's like the nicest guy you've ever met in your life. And Linda is such like a conniving, stupid bitch, and she's just like, how are we ever gonna have this perfect house if we have this black guy living downstairs?
Wow, yeah,
and he's got the best room in the house because it's the parlor floor front.
There's definitely those racist undertones for sure.
Big time.
Yeah.
She's like, we want to restore it to its former glory, and we can't do that if he's living here. It's like, what are you trying to say exactly?
We've had some like real characters through this show, even with season 1.
Yeah.
But she takes the cake.
Oh yeah.
She is like terrible. I mean, she gets even worse as the episode goes on.
The husband doesn't get off scot-free, but at least he's trying to be nice. But I mean, when you think about what you just said, where they still did evict all those other people before the episode, he's not totally in the clear, but at least he has a bit of a conscience.
She's definitely the one calling the shots.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is him satiating his wife.
Oh yeah, he's getting walked all over for sure.
Yeah, big time. So Mars Gillis is living in the parlor floor front, and they're trying to evict him.
With his sister.
I don't think she lives there.
Well, she's there a lot. Either way, it's fucking Estelle, the grandmother from Family Matters.
Mother Winslow.
Yeah, Mother Winslow.
Rosetta Lenore.
Mm-hmm. So this guy's been living in this parlor floor front apartment for like the past 40 years. These people just roll in and just tell him he's got to get the fuck out.
Yeah, he was the janitor there for a while.
For a long time. And like Doug even says, he's like, he was a janitor before we were even born.
I mean, you've been there your whole life. As long as you got like a good argument, what can they really do?
He's also living there for like $95 a month.
Can you imagine?
No.
$95 a month? Yeah, and he's like, I can't find anywhere else to go. It's like, not for that price.
No, well, it's also like, if he had a place to go, he would.
Yeah, I mean, he says that. It's part of me... You find out that maybe this guy's like so nice by the end of it that he probably was telling the truth, but part of me is like, yeah, that's a good way just to never leave. Like, well, I'm looking... I can't find anything for $95, but
it's also like, leave this guy alone.
Yeah.
You have 4 floors. You got the McAllister brothers brownstone with 4 floors of
Uncle Robbie's
shit.
house.
Yeah, Uncle Robbie's
it's like
house.
You bought an apartment building.
Yeah.
And you're mad that there's people living in an apartment downstairs.
That's
kind of the point, though, right? Is that you just nailed it, Chris. They bought the apartment building, kicked everyone out, and the one holdout is like fucking up her plan, and it's like. Well, maybe you should have had a different plan. Then, not to mention this place you bought. The opening scene is you fixing the wall. This fucking putting
like foundational
caulk into a
cracks.
crack. Yeah.
I just want to note here, this is not how you spackle, and it was driving me nuts that this woman just like hitting it. I don't know. It was bothering me.
Just let it lump up, harden. And then put some more over.
It's like put an icing on a cake, obviously.
Well, but you got to fill it and push it in.
Yeah.
So we get introduced to Mars Gillis, and he's played by Adolph Caesar, and this guy's great. Now he's super notable for things that you might not know that he's done.
Yeah, a ton of voiceover work.
He's narrated the Dawn of the Dead, the Day of the Dead, and the Sleepaway Camp trailers, the theatrical trailers, which I had no idea.
So George had been using them for a while at this point, or hiring them rather.
During this time, he was also on the 80s Twilight Zone, an episode of that. But he also did The Color Purple and A Soldier's Story. He was nominated for an Oscar for like working on that. So like this guy.
He's got credentials.
He's got clout, put it that way.
And he's great.
I think he's fantastic. Yeah.
He makes the episode.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then of course Miss Gillis is Mother Winslow.
She's great.
Who's his sister.
She's doing a little bit of an accent here.
Yeah, they have like this. That's why I was like, oh, the West Indies, because it's very like Haitian sounding.
That's what I thought it was. I thought it was like Haitian.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of like the foundation of like voodoo and hoodoo and all.
Yeah,
yeah. Where it comes from, rather.
Right.
And then also another, I was like finding these deep dives and connections on IMDb. So Donna Bullock, who plays Linda, is actually married to Sherman Howard. You know who that is?
It sounds familiar.
Does it ring a bell?
Not at all.
It's Bub from Day of the Dead.
What the fuck?
Right?
That's
All these
bizarre.
weird connections,
Yeah, it's really weird.
Romero's going through that
Yeah.
Rolodex to get some people in his show.
Pittsburgh's a small town.
I
apparently.
guess so.
Apparently.
I was like looking through her creds and like I didn't see anything that really jumped out at me. Like a lot of TV.
Yeah.
I think she was also. I think like her biggest thing was like rolling Air Force One with Harrison Ford. But she's also in The Girl Next Door, and I'm pretty sure she takes Paul Dano to prom in that movie.
Okay.
Yeah, I just saw a picture of it. I was like, oh, okay.
But you know, she's just like we kind of already said, just kind of a bitch about the whole situation, and
Bitch is putting it mildly.
yeah, but like she's basically telling her husband like, you know, they have all these problems with this guy, and he like basically hires him like, you know, for minimum wage to help him move some shit around the house.
Well, the way that's prompted is that like they want him to leave, and he offers services. He's like,
Right.
well, maybe I can help you out with something.
Yeah, I'm known to help people out from time to time.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, great, you can help me clean out the basement.
Right,
And
and he's
I'll
like,
pay
that's not
minimum
what I-
wage.
That's not what I meant, right?
Yeah, he's like, that's not what I meant, but sure.
And so he's like helping him move some like stuff around, and he has like this vase.
Yeah.
And Linda just haphazardly has like a paint bucket in the middle of the floor for some insane reason, trips over it, and of course the vase shatters.
Yeah.
So, because she's a fucking asshole, instead of just being like, oh my God, that's horrible that broke. Are you okay? Shouldn't have put that there. She's just like, oh, you broke my very important vase that's been in my family for 10 generations?
Yeah,
Are you going to pay for that?
Totally over dramatic
Yeah.
and just blaming him. You're gonna pay for that.
You're
you
the-
stupid idiot.
How can anybody be so incompetent? You're
Yeah.
so clumsy.
You
How
know,
can
the
anybody be
paint
clumsy?
bucket was like a foot away from the edge of the door.
She literally put it in where you're like the
Yeah.
threshold, and he couldn't see
It's
where
like,
he was
lady,
going.
what do you expect?
And this poor guy's getting picked apart. He's like sweating bullets.
She wants him to pay for it, and like he's like, "You're gonna dock his pay." She tells Doug, "She's like, you're gonna dock his pay, and he's gonna pay for it. That was a priceless
Yeah.
antique
He's
or
like,
some
we can't
shit."
do that. So in the beginning, you know, the husband sort of like, you know, he's kind of the same boat as Linda. Like he's an asshole too.
Sure.
Oh, she says, "Oh, he just threw it on the floor."
Yeah.
And it's like, what the fuck? This poor guy is like, "I didn't do it on purpose," and blah blah
Yeah.
blah. So Doug walks him downstairs and like takes half his pay, and he's like, "I'll tell you what, you pay half, and I'll take the other half, and we'll call it even." And he's like, "I didn't do it on purpose." He's like, "Yeah, sure."
He's trying to be a little more like considerate with the
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
He's getting a little nicer, way nicer than she is.
Oh, 100%.
He doesn't want to hear his wife because he goes right upstairs and tells him, she's like, half? You getting me to pay for half? He's like, well, it wasn't really his fault. And she's like, that asshole.
So he breaks his pot, and he's a real jerk off about it, and they're arguing about it. But prior to that, they're working, and like Doug's like, "Oh, come here real quick," and him and Linda like go downstairs, and they like look into his door. They're like spying on this guy.
Yeah, like peeking around like Scooby-Doo style.
Yeah,
Oh
to
my
see what he's
God.
doing, and he's like doing this chant and practicing, like voodoo, doing this thing for this girl who like wants to get her boyfriend to like her again or something.
Yeah.
So she like bites this apple, and he's like, "Oh, bury it under this
spinning
thing.
around in a circle. Okay, stop, bite this apple.
Bite this apple, bury this in front of his window.
Send it to horse X.
Yeah, exactly. Go ahead, Cassie. Give me your quarter, and I'll tell you exactly what's gonna happen.
I'll tell you where to put that apple.
So he doesn't accept cash as a payment. So he's doing this thing for her to help her get her boyfriend back, but he needs a piece of gold. And
Right.
what he does is he imbues the gold with whatever the magic is, whether it be I don't know if like it's a dark thing or like a demonic thing or a curse thing, because she's been cursed by somebody else.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is that she is now protected from this spell, and the curse has gone into this piece of gold that she's given him.
Yeah, it's like all that negative energy and like awfulness is transferred to the gold jewelry
And put away.
and that's his payment.
Yes.
Because like won't take money, just the jewelry that's like the bad gold.
And only he could like own it,
Yep.
you know? And the reason he hasn't gotten rid of it or like used it, because they see that and they're like, well, all that gold he's got. He's like, why does he just like move out?
We gotta report that. That'll kick him out.
my
Yeah.
God.
Well, yeah.
right.
They're like, why does he just go pawn it off and go buy another house or
Yeah.
something? And they're like, oh, he's running a business out of there. There's got to be some kind of law where he can't do that. Let's go fucking tell the Bureau of Investigations or some shit.
Yeah, so somewhere in between there is when he drops the vase, and then he's out like in front of the steps doing some kind of chant or ritual, and they're like, huh, what could that be about?
Well, and then he's like, if it's my doing, curse me, and if it's someone else's doing, curse them,
Right.
kind of thing.
Because
And that kind of spooks them.
right,
little bit.
because she says he threw it, he knows he didn't, and it's kind of like, well, whoever really did it's gonna have a bad day.
Yeah,
and he knows it's not him. So
yeah, he's like, let those be responsible. Let evil befall them.
Yeah, that's it.
So he's basically saying, like, you know, who was ever causing all this weird stuff happening.
Yeah.
It's like, let them have the curse.
Exactly. And so they're like talking at night again, and he's like, well, maybe we can get him on like witchcraft. What do you know about witchcraft? You're an anthropologist. I'm like, this woman is a professional anthropologist, and she's treating this guy like dog shit.
Yeah.
And it's like,
everybody's got to be at the bottom of their class, Joe.
Well, speaking of class, it's like a big education in classism for sure.
Yeah, that's for sure.
But she's like, oh, well, if magic only works if the person believes it. And then she's like, okay.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't pick up on that.
So now the idea of this curse is out there.
Yep.
So guy gets a 2x4 dropped on his arm and his wrist breaks. She hammers her thumb.
Yeah, all sorts of stuff are happening like all at once.
Yeah.
Yeah, she hammers his thumb. He comes like limping into the room, saying he broke his arm because a 2x4
fell on him.
I mean, he's lucky
got
how
weak bones.
He made it of paper mache.
he's lucky how Bocce didn't fall on his head.
That's Mr. Yamabachi.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that too.
So he's like, oh, it's the curse and blah blah blah. And she's like, yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's gotta be that curse.
Yeah, it sure is that curse.
Like, oh crap, it's the curse and knocked me off a ladder. I felt somebody push me.
Well, he goes to the hospital, and she's like, okay, yeah, the curse again. So I guess she's like by the door hearing
off screen.
Yeah, well, I guess she hears him coming up the stairs or whatever, because she falls off her ladder and like hurts herself.
Yeah, all dramatic.
And he comes in, he's like, oh my God, are you okay? She's like, hey, it's the curse, dog. I felt the hit, it pulled me off the ladder and I fell. And he's like, what are you talking about? He's like, you're just being clumsy.
Yeah, totally leaning into it, being like, oh,
yeah.
the curse.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm so scared, Doug. Like, you really got to talk to me. He's like, I'm not going to talk to him. Like, you just fell off a ladder. Like, it could happen. And she's like, well, I'm also scared because I'm pregnant, and I don't know how this is going to affect everything. And I just want to, you wouldn't let me work on the house if you knew I was pregnant. And he's like,
damn right I wouldn't.
He's like, well, of course not.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, wouldn't that now go tell him that it's the curse, right? And he's like, no. Hard cut to her like crying in bed.
I'm an eggnon. Little elves reference for you.
Agamemnon. She pulls like a sheet off a cat. And she's like, look, Doug, the cat's dead. It's the curse,
The
Doug.
curse also killed the cat.
He's like, oh God, what happened? She's like, no, it's the curse. It just dropped dead. It's right there.
It's like a little Herbert West note.
Yeah,
right.
Cat dead details later.
Exactly. Check her journal, maybe.
She's like, okay, Doug, this is enough, right? The cat's dead. It's definitely the curse. Go tell him about it. He's like, no, the cat just died. This is terrible.
Keep in mind, we might be giving it away more so than the actual show does, to be fair.
But the way that it's presented is so like one right after another.
It is.
Yeah.
And like Doug just will not do it. He's not going to give this guy a hard time for all this coincidental shit happening.
Despite her best efforts to say that it's a curse.
Yeah.
Because she keeps bringing it up.
Oh, she keeps bringing it up. Yeah.
She also then at some point is just like, just pay him the other half. I don't care. And he's like, yeah, well, out of principle, like, why would I at this point? It's kind of embarrassing. I gave him half and now I'm going to give him the other half. Like, oh, whoops.
You have to give him the money to stop the curse, blah, blah, blah. Then we cut and she's like crying in bed. And she's like, doctor said it was the fall from the ladder. I lost the baby. And he's like, oh, fuck. But like still Doug's like, it's okay. Like, you know, like
He's
the
still
good
not
thing.
buying it.
No, he's like, the good thing is that you're okay and blah, blah, blah. And she's like, you mean you're not going to go tell him that it was the curse now? And he's like, no, what are you talking about?
Right.
So she's like, all right, I got to go get some air. So she goes downstairs to this fucking guy's apartment. And she's like, it's the curse. You put a curse on us and my cat's dead. I lost my child. And he's like, no, I didn't do anything. What are you talking about? I just meant to cause a little mischief. I didn't mean anybody to get hurt.
Yeah, so he put a little hex on him or something, but like not in the way that she like
perceived it.
Yeah.
Wow. Maybe the hammer to the finger, possibly. Maybe you get a little diarrhea on your underwear before you wipe it off, but not your cat's gonna fucking die. Have a miscarriage.
Or like the thumb thing. Like, I get that.
Yeah, like not to the level that she's alluding to.
Which again, we don't actually as audience members know that yet, but we will find out very shortly because cut to the next day where this guy looks like he is in the most pain because he didn't mean any of this. Like,
he feels
oh my
really
God,
bad.
what did I do?
Yeah, and it, like that whole exchange where she goes down there and talks to him and like berates him and stuff ends with her being like, just take the curse off or whatever. And she's like, you don't accept cash, right? Well, take this is the only gold I got. Go fuck yourself, and like throws it at him. This guy is totally like. He feels terrible about everything
he feels
that's
responsible
for the baby, for the cat, for all this stuff, and he actually thinks that there's a curse that he did like by accident. He's like, I'm too powerful, and blah blah blah. So he takes the ring and he performs one last ritual, and this fucking guy hangs himself.
And they show it, which was kind of shocking to me for a TV show, honestly.
The way they do this is they like pan across the room, his apartment, and his feet literally like swing into view.
Yep, and just like stop.
Yeah, I mean, then they show his whole body, so it's
whoa.
Later,
But it's just like shit. Yeah. And like he like paid for like this with his life by doing this ritual where he would need to die to take this curse off of them. That doesn't really
it's like
exist.
some heavy stuff. All because of this woman just being over the top.
And wants him out of her house. Because she's
Right, that's what we find out in the next scene, because now the funeral's going on and in his apartment, which I kind of liked as a touch. And the husband even comes in.
Well, Mama Winslow couldn't afford the funeral.
Right.
So they had to have it in the apartment. And like they make this mention of like 200 people coming in and out, which I thought was a pretty powerful way to tell like that storytelling.
Yeah.
Because this guy was well known and well respected and a good dude.
Yeah, and they're probably all people that he helped in some capacity.
Yeah,
just all coming to pay their respects to him.
Yeah.
Right. Well, even Linda, she keeps berating him and bad-mouthing him, even up to the point where he's dead at this point. And even the husband's finally like, he was like a good guy. Like, you really like kind of went over the top with this whole thing. Yeah. And like they see like the jar of all the gold, and he's like, well, your ring's probably in there. She's like, well, I want to get it back. I made that all up. And she starts spilling the fucking beans. And he's like, whoa, roll it back a little. Wait, what did you just say?
Yeah, because like he goes in there and he sees her ring, like it's about to be buried with this.
Oh, that's what it is. Yeah. And he's like, well, what the hell? Your ring's in there.
It's like a box of jewelry. And he's like, wait a second, that's my wife's ring. And he's like, but what is that doing in there?
Yeah.
So he goes to take it, and Mama Windsor's like, are you fucking crazy?
Are you mad?
He's like, don't. Yeah. She's like, don't touch that. All the evil is in that gold.
Right. Yeah. That's what it is.
He's like, that's got to be buried with him. Like that is no good. That shit.
Right, they're both not there. You're right. Because then he goes and he confronts her. He's like, why does he have her ring? Did he steal it? Did he find it?
That's a mistake. That can't be right.
Like, she's not going to believe me that he just found it on the ground.
Right.
He doesn't know that Linda went there and like threw it at him and did that whole exchange. So he goes upstairs and she's like, after all of this shit happens, she's like, oh my God, I don't want my ring buried with that.
That's all she's worried about.
She's all worried
not
about
that the guy hung himself
or anything.
Yeah.
No.
She's like, that's creepy. That gives me the creeps that my ring is with him when he's dead.
That can't be buried with him.
No.
Go get it back.
So then, I basically already said it, but she admits, I faked hitting myself in the hand. Yeah, well, you getting hurt, that was just a coincidence that helped sell my story. Yeah, I killed the fucking cat.
Well, he just deduces that. He's like, you killed the fucking cat and there was no baby, was there? And she's like, nope.
Yeah, so what?
When he confronts her about it, she just changes the subject.
She totally folds. Yep. And he fucking leaves her. And I'm like, good on you, Doug. She's fucking insane, brother.
Yeah, it's pretty fucked up. And
she has the balls to go downstairs with Mama Winslow sleeping in the chair to take this ring from
out of his casket.
Right out of his casket.
I do love her though. She's doing one of these like,
she's got one eye.
She knows.
She knows.
Yeah, it's kind of great.
And she lets her take it.
Straight up. Fuck her. She knew exactly what was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But there was like that point because I didn't know there was going to be a twist. I'm just like, when's the other shoe going to drop? Like, what is going on with this episode? Like, I'm interested, but it's not selling it to me that well up to that point.
Yeah.
Then you get the twist, and it's like, oh, this is like working swimmingly.
That cursed gold really sells it. And I love the shot too, because she takes the ring and runs back upstairs, and Mama Winslow just like goes back to sleep.
Yeah.
Then this shot, you see Mama Winslow, and she's like sleeping, and it pans over, and Mars is not in the coffin anymore. Mm-hmm. And he's like thumbing through his gold, and he's like, where's my ring?
Yeah, where is my ring? Then you just see the feet going up the steps with him. He doesn't just say that, he says other variations of it.
It's really creepy. And honestly, this climax is really well done.
It is.
There's like fog behind him and this big light. There's like wind blowing and she's like in her bed and he's like, "Where's my ring?" The fucking like the wall cracks open and like light shoots out of it. It's really cool.
Yeah, this was like the production value here is like way more than it should have been.
Oh
but
yeah,
it totally sells it because this sort of comes out of like nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
You think the episode is like compared to these other ones we've had, is going to go a certain way where something just kind of fizzles out. No, nope.
Yeah.
It goes. It's awesome. It's like this whole last part.
He like closes in on her and she's just like left laying there like totally dead. I thought like her finger was going to be ripped off. I would have really liked that more, but it just shows like zooms in on her hand and the ring is gone. But yeah. I think it's supremely creepy at the end there, and like she really fucking I think she deserved worse.
Oh,
honestly.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And the way it like zooms in on her, just like dead on the bed.
Yeah.
It sits there for a while, like a little too long.
Yeah.
Before it goes down to her hand.
Yeah.
That doesn't show the ring on it, but it's like that whole part right there it's great.
It's pretty powerful, man, and it's like shot really well too. So what do we think about this one?
I think this is one of the best episodes of the whole series so far. This is an amazing episode. And like I said, like the beginning, it's not really hooking me, but I'm intrigued. So, I mean, I guess it is a little, but like the full hook's not in there yet.
Yeah.
And then when you get the twist, which I guess is the point, then the hook's like ripping my fucking head off. I'm so into it. If you can picture what I'm trying to say, it's just really good. You get that classic. I mean, that's why I wore my cavity colors, kind of the Tales from the Crypt style shirt for this episode.
Creepshow.
Because it made me think of Creepshow a lot. Like even elements. I mean, I'm joking about the cake from Father's Day, but just the feeling, it felt like Creepshow to me a lot. Like they really nailed. And they do often on the show, but this one especially really had that vibe, like the lighting, some of the camera direction in this, especially the actors all kind of had it. They were never silly, but they kind of felt like they were always teetering on the edge in this one, like in a good way.
Yeah.
It just really comes together. I said swimmingly earlier. I don't know why that word for some reason is coming to me for this, but it fits. I don't know why, but I really liked it. And I kind of like little story arcs each character kind of had, like, you know, the old man and his sister, the husband and wife, and even like the husband eventually being like, yeah, maybe I'm still an asshole because I kicked all those other people out, but enough is fucking enough. I'm done.
Well, man's dead.
Yeah, and the classic bad guy getting what's deserved to them in a delicious way. Especially her coming in, trying to be sneaky and stealing the ring, and Grandma Winslow watching it all go down. Like, all right, you want to go to hell? Here you go. Here's how you go. And it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
I like this episode. It's like not one of my favorites looking back of like all these episodes, but it's up there. It's definitely a fun one. And I always like a good like twist at the end.
Yeah.
Like the Tales from the Crypt episodes. It's like those always have one like that.
Yeah.
Where it's something fun and, you know, relevant to the character and the story. But it's like, yeah, we don't get a lot of like twists in Tales from the Dark Side, but it's always fun when we get something like this. So this is like, she gets just desserts, comeuppance, all those. Here we go. It's like, it's great.
I think it's awesome. I really like this episode a lot. And again, we've been dealing with like these we had a sci-fi love story before. We had a sci-fi story where some guy helps the government out with talking to a fucking alien. Yeah. And now it's like, okay, we're getting back to the roots. We get a little bit of hoodoo voodoo in here, which I really dig. And I think one of my favorite parts about it is like there's magic happening, but you don't it's not. It doesn't come to the forefront until the end of the episode because, like, as far as you know, it's all just bullshit.
Yeah.
At one point, it just takes a shit, and Linda never believes it at all. So the sociopathic nature of this woman is so disgusting that like she at any cost she's gonna have this building to herself and her possessions. Like she
one
goes
way or another,
like going so far as this guy has killed himself and she's still just thinking about herself and going to get the ring and stuff like that. And again, like I like how we see like voodoo ritual like practices, but we don't see the ends, the means to those ends. And then the ending being that supernatural element that kind of ties it all together and gets her comeuppance, which I really dig.
Yeah, it's like all that. It's not wholly explained, or it doesn't really go into it.
No,
it's just hinted at, and like you're left to just imagine kind of like what this all means.
Yeah, and was it real or was it not? But I guess it was, and you got the fucking shit end of the stick on that deal.
And that sells the story and like the creepiness to it.
Yeah. But I also think it's really a powerful, like, again, like I mentioned before, like the classism and the and the social commentary about how minorities are treated, or like people who are like janitors or whatever are treated like low lives and shit, like they're trash, like get out of here, you know.
And how landlords are the scum of the earth.
That too, and by any means they're gonna kick you out no matter what, no matter how good of a person you are, you know what I mean, or your skin color or anything like that. And I think that's really fucked up. So it kind of melds those things together pretty nicely. It's also shot really well, and it's lit really well. There are some like effective, like really creepy scenes in this.
Yeah.
That scene that I mentioned before where it like pans over and he's like next to the coffin and not in it, that's a fucking great reveal, because you don't see his whole body, just his hands like in the gold box.
Yeah, there's some really nice shots throughout it, but the ending, that's when it'll come together, and it's like, that's a nice little treat.
Nice little bow on the package there.
And there's so many, like, again, going back to it, but like there's so many extra shots there that just weren't necessary, but we got them.
But it elevates it. I think
the wall tearing and like the books falling.
God,
like that's such a whenever I see that and like the bad spackle job that she was doing in the beginning, that all cracks off and it's like this purple light that shoots out. It's really cool. And again, after those other episodes that we just did that were more sci-fi, it's nice that we've pivoted back to the horror element of the series. And I mean, if they opened this season with this one, it would have been like, holy shit! All right, we're in for a fucking ride here.
Swap this and Spiffy Remo around.
Yeah, and I think that would have been a little bit better.
Where it's like you get a little bit more like breathing room in between like the horror episodes.
True.
And it's like cool. Yeah, get some weird experimental ones in. Test the waters with your romance ones.
Sure,
but like. We're here for the horror episodes.
And you're putting two really good episodes back to back, as we'll see in the next one.
But so it's like between episode 4, this one, and then 5, it's like we're more than making up for the first 3 episodes of the season.
Yeah. So I feel like they knew that it didn't work too well. I mean, this series has
somebody working on the production had an idea, had some foresight.
Yeah, this series has a lot of ups and downs. This is definitely a high point for this season for sure.
It's a big, it's a big board.
Yeah.
And they're just throwing shit at the wall. And this episode sticks.
I think, me too. I agree. So yeah, let us know what you thought of this episode in the comments, and if you liked it or you didn't. And if you're watching on YouTube, do us a favor and hit that like button and subscribe. And if you're listening on your favorite podcast app, do us a favor and leave a 5-star review if you dig the show. But until next time, I'm Joe Lascola.
I'm Sean O'Rourke.
And I'm Chris Barr.
Tales from the Dark Side is always there, waiting for us to watch it, waiting for us to hit play. Until next time, try to find it on DVD and watch along with us.